Thank you for joining us today for On the Road with Jesus, hosted by Rhody Fisher. As a Christian mom for over 40 years and a teacher of the Bible in public schools for 25 years, Rhody will take you on a journey with some of her friends as they share their experiences and testimonies from their walk with Christ. You'll see that you are not alone in your search for God, your victories with Him, or your failures. Welcome to On the Road with Jesus. Now, here's your host, Rhody Fisher.
Good morning, listeners, and welcome to On the Road with Jesus. Thank you so much for joining us today. Let's pray. Father, thank you that you are not panicking in heaven today, even though it feels like we are today. Lord, I pray that you'd be with our listeners and everyone here in the studio today. Bless us, Lord, in Jesus' name. Amen. We're in Psalm 144 today, and I'm reading from the NIV. So praise to the Lord, my rock, who trains my hands for war, my fingers for battle. He is loving. He is my loving God and my fortress, my stronghold and my deliverer, my shield in whom I take refuge, who subdues people under me. You know, when I hear that scripture about God being our shield, yet I think of the full armor of God in Ephesians, how he is, you know, we do have the shield of faith and the sword, which is the word of God. I think of that right away when I read that. Verse 3, O Lord, what is a man that you care for him? The son of man that you think of him? Man is like a breath. His days are like a fleeting shadow. Part your heavens, O Lord, and come down. Touch the mountains so that they smoke. Send forth lightning and scatter the enemies. Shoot your arrows and rout them. Reach down your hand from on high. Deliver me and rescue me from the mighty waters, from the hands of foreigners whose mouths are full of lies, whose right hands are deceitful. I will sing a new song to you, O God, on the 10-stringed lyre. I will make music to you, to the one who gives victory to kings, who delivers his servant David from the deadly sword. Deliver me and rescue me from the hands of foreigners, whose mouths are full of lies, whose right hands are deceitful. Then our sons in their youth will be like well-matured plants, and our daughters will be like pillars carved to adorn the palace. Our barns will be filled with every kind of provision. Our sheep will increase by thousands, by 10,000s in our fields. Our oxen will draw heavy loads. There will be no breaching of walls, no going into captivity, no cry of distress in our streets. Blessed are the people of whom this is true. Blessed are the people whose God is the Lord. Well, you know, again, David is constantly wanting God to rescue him, and here he is again. I'm sitting very, very close to my friend here. I do want to introduce you to her, my special guest. And Robin has a really excellent story about what she does for a living. And that's really what I want to get to. But first, let's talk about your testimony, where you grew up and how you came to know the Lord.
I grew up in Orange County.
Yeah.
And we moved a lot throughout Orange County. And my mother raised 3 of her 5 children. And we went to different churches throughout our lives. Mm-hmm. And when we were little, the church I remember first is, it was First Baptist Church in Costa Mesa. I looked it up last night. It's not there anymore.
Aww. Yeah, I'm sorry.
I couldn't find it. Yeah. But that's where I got saved. And I even still have my Bible. It is from when I was 7 years old. Well, I got saved on my 8th birthday.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
But you were attending a little bit before that.
Yes.
So,
yes.
wow, what a beautiful story. Now, you still have your Bible?
Yes.
Oh,
I
wow.
do. It's tattered, but it is still, I still use it.
So, you know, we talked about how sometimes as you're walking on this journey with the Lord, you get saved as a child and you kind of wander. But that didn't happen to you. You just hung tough with the Lord your whole time. You got saved at 8 and continued to walk with him. Tell me why that happened. I mean, how that happened.
Well, I can't say it was a perfect walk. After all, we are human.
Yes.
I was what I consider a nerd. I didn't have very many friends. I would read the Bible, and when they came out with the Bible that was called the Book, and it was easier to read than the King James.
Yeah.
I enjoyed reading that, and I was trying to do the right thing. I always wanted to do the right thing. But of course, as life goes on and you're influenced by other people, and because I was a nerd and wanting to be, I was never part of the popular crowds. Of course, I wanted to. So as you're moving along, we went to different churches throughout my life, learning about different churches. I'd go with different friends. So they were also nerds. I guess back in the day, you were nerds because you were conservative and you wanted to do right. Didn't go hang out with the people that did the drugs and that kind of stuff. I wasn't a jock, so I didn't get to hang out with those people. And so I was more into the academics. And there was a time, of course, when I was a teenager and I lived on my own, that I strayed a bit, but always kept coming back. So,
yeah. You had a solid foundation at a very young age and a family that loved the Lord too. So it did make it easier. I know for some of us that grew up in a Christian home and our walk maybe gets a little tattered, but praise the Lord, that didn't happen with you.
I believe that while I was growing up, God prevented or took things away from me that I didn't get into.
Yeah.
Not everybody in my family, my brothers and I went to the same churches, and not everybody was able to stay on that path. But we all eventually came back. But the types of things I like to do, I enjoyed very much. I enjoyed Sunday school. I enjoyed Bible studies. So that's where I found comfort. And so I would go to churches that taught from the Bible. Those were the churches of my choice, opposed to going to different churches that the pastor or minister would give their opinion of the story.
And so I understand that you went to different Calvary chapels as well.
I did.
You went to Costa Mesa and different churches to get fed.
Yes. Because I tried different times. My best friend in high school, she was Catholic. So I went to Mass, never quite, I don't know if that's appropriate to say on your broadcast, but I never felt quite comfortable repeating what someone told me to repeat. Because I didn't feel that was from the heart. I believe a lot of people do say it and repeat it, and it does come from their heart. But when I was reading it, it wasn't coming from my heart. And we went to various churches, like Mormon churches. We went to, my first church of Calvary was in Costa Mesa in the 70s. I remember sitting on the floor in Holly Hoppy outfits. That was a big thing back then in the 70s for little girls. Barefoot, and Pastor Chuck talking, and he had all the kids come up on the floor at the bottom of the stage, and we would all sit on the carpet around him until we went off to Sunday school or wherever we were sent off to. So I enjoyed that. And when I was in high school, we started going to the Saturday night concerts.
Oh yeah, I remember those.
Yeah, so those were the fun things to go and do. So we didn't get my mom was trying to keep us from getting in trouble. So
Right.
something to do on a Saturday night, she'd drop us off at church. She had to go to work. My brother eventually started taking us there. And so we went to mostly that Calvary Chapel when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
We went to Garden Grove. There was a church in Garden Grove, I think, not sure, but I think it ended up becoming Crystal Cathedral. And that's when I discovered that Christian music can have guitars and drums.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't just the piano. And so that brought me to church, was that there were bands opposed to just Christian
I know.
music.
It was so great to, when I think back at the 70s and the 80s, and the worship time, it was really great to have every other thing but just the organ music, or maybe just the piano. Our church had an organ playing all the time. And so having people on the guitar and playing a keyboard as well as drums was really great.
Yeah, it made me want to go.
Yeah.
So praise and worship actually became praise, opposed to just singing a song. I still love the old Southern gospel music. However, this brought in the other instruments, which at that age really attracted
Wow.
the
Yeah.
youth. Yeah.
Now, I do want to talk about a little bit about your work, but tell me how that began. You own a company, a ministry, and it is a really awesome ministry, as you'll hear, called Queen of Hearts.
It's Queen of Hearts Therapeutic Writing Center.
Mm-hmm.
Has to have the full title because there are other organizations with Queen of Hearts in the name.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so tell us how that got started and what it's all about.
Okay. Yes. Well, Queen of Hearts Therapeutic Writing Center is in Jurupa Valley. It started in Riverside. We moved to Jurupa Valley about 17 years ago. We work with mental, physical, and emotional disabilities. And it originally started through having problems. Okay, so I used to dance a lot. Every night of the week, I used to know where to go. I did country dancing. I loved to do the swing and two-step and whatnot. And I knew every single night, I knew which place to go to. At one of my favorite spots out in Fullerton, I ended up getting mugged when we were leaving. And with that, I ended up getting post-traumatic stress. And so, which was a real shocker, because when I was a kid growing up, I lived in gangbang neighborhoods and I didn't know it. Chicano neighborhoods. I did not know that's what it was because I was too much of a nerd to know I was living around gangbangers. And they left me alone. So it was not a problem. He did. Absolutely. There was definitely a benefit of being a nerd that I didn't know I was surrounded by that community. And just keeping to my academics and again, not getting in with all the jocks, but being with those people. I even had an encounter with them at the time. And I didn't realize that what it was, that somebody picked a fight with me and we got in a fight and I won, so to speak. I actually stopped the fight because I was afraid I was going to hurt her. And even the person, I guess, that was in charge of the gang, I think they were trying to recruit her into the gang. And they said, I remember specifically, they asked, are you, don't tell anybody about this. I'm like, who am I going to tell? Why would I be proud of that? And so that was kind of my first inkling that there was something really kind of going on. And at that time in high school, I enjoyed sign language. They started bringing people with disabilities into the high school. And so I started working with people with disabilities, learning about them. And of course, they were nerds too, because they were different. And I learned sign language, and I thought I would have that way of my career path. And I also thought I would go into the legal field. I liked learning about that, but at the time we were poor. So I had no money to actually pay even for the school books. At the time, we didn't qualify for grants or loans or anything like that. And eventually I joined the military to help pay for the school education. And And so being in the military, I was always, during that time also was the women's movement during the 70s. Don't ever have to depend on a man, stand up for yourself, that kind of thing. So I was a female in the military, which was not very common at the time. And I was a strong, independent person, where I grew up in this neighborhood where gang bangers didn't bother me. I didn't see the violence. So I wasn't around that. But even when I was in the military, getting strong, being a strong leader, then I didn't feel like I was really exposed to the dark side, so to speak. And I even went to a church that I could tell the difference. So the different churches I went to, I felt the difference of being around people that felt dark. And it was one of the churches, it's called Vineyard. I believe that was in Irvine, that I learned about
discernment.
Yes. I didn't know what that was. And even though when I was younger, we went to churches where people spoke in tongues and that kind of, I didn't feel comfortable around that. We went to Harvest. I really loved being at Harvest. And a few other small churches. Right now, I like to go to Grace Fellowship in Norco because they do teach from the Bible, and they teach real. They're real. It's not like somebody going up there preaching their story. They're preaching from the Bible. So I really like that. And so going back into why did I start, going back to your original question, with the Therapeutic Writing Center. So I had a background of working with people that were not working with, but being friends with people that were not considered normal. And with that, when I ended up getting mugged, I had post-traumatic stress. And I wouldn't come out of the house. I went to work and the grocery store, and that was it. And very low, my self-esteem, even though I had the physical strength and mental strength, I didn't have the emotional strength. And that just really, that was the last straw and broke me down. So, I did keep going to church. And that was the church that I was learning about discernment, learning why and when one would speak in tongues, and learned more about the Bible and God's meanings, more of the meanings in it. And that was in the late 90s that was going on.
So when you suffered through post-traumatic stress after you got mugged, you saw the need to open up something that would help people. Now, I do know that that have challenges. I do know that a lot of your people that come for therapy they're riding horses to kind of get them into a relaxed mood. Explain that to me.
Well, when I had post-traumatic stress, my friend introduced me to horses. And that was my first exposure to horses. I did not grow up with horses.
Okay.
And so what happened is that the horses helped me relax. I didn't know why. I just thought they were cute, and I wanted to learn how to work with horses. She had horses out in Norco, so I went and visited her. And so we didn't even start working with people with disabilities yet. The reason I'm bringing up that is because I look back, why am I where I am? And I saw the path that God was building with me, even through the situations that I grew up with. I look back and say, oh, that's why that happened. Oh, that, of course, at the time you don't understand, but then later you understand that's why that happened. Oh, that's why that happened. So I learned from them. And when I I wanted to learn the behaviors of horse, make sure I was not hurting them and they were doing what they would think would be fun, and have fun with them, not use them. And with that, they gave me peace and got me out of the house to go. Initially, it was just to go be with the horse. It wasn't therapy, but I didn't realize it actually was for me.
Oh, yeah.
And then my friend and I, we were going to go, we wanted to start a dude ranch in the Midwest or wherever in Montana, Wyoming, and meet some cowboys and and that kind of thing. But we started out in Riverside, using my military benefits to get a small acreage over in Riverside. And she started teaching the horses. And I was teaching the horses. She was teaching people how to ride, and then learned about working with people with disabilities. And so I was helping her with that. I was more of the horse trainer and her assistant. And then at the time I was working for a law office, and I quit because she asked me to, and we needed the time at the ranch. The unfortunate part, that was my choice, and that wasn't God telling me to quit. That was me deciding to quit the law office. And it didn't go well, and our partnership didn't go well. So I started back at a different law office working graveyard shifts to make ends meet so I could still do the lessons during the day. And then when the partnership split, she went her way. I kept the place because people still wanted. So I learned more and got better at what I'm doing. And my focus was always to learn to get better. I guess that's part of the enjoyment of academics, because I saw a need, and every time I saw a need, I wanted to fill it. So with equine therapy, it's more than just putting somebody on a horse. There's no such thing as just a pony ride. Because when you're on a horse and you're sitting on the horse, the movement that the horse makes is similar to a human walk. And what happens is, I call it the little zippy zappies up and down the spine, and goes into your brain, and the oxytocin builds in your brain and helps you to want to relax, even just being near a horse, which I didn't realize. That's why I found that peace around being with the horses. But then when you're riding, it also helps the body relax. It helps your internal organs. It helps your brain relax. And so we found that when we did this, a lot of our clients that we were getting were people with intellectual disabilities, and a lot had autism. Some were blind. We had all kinds of different people who were working with stroke recovery, hearing impairment. That's where sign language came in, because I started working with the California School for the Deaf, and because one of my clients was deaf, and we were doing horse shows, and I was able to help her. She win in some horse shows because I can communicate to her. So guess where? High school came in to help. Just helping. You mention a disability, and almost everybody can benefit from the physical, just being on the horse. Even if someone's just riding the horse, it takes a lot to have your balance to be on the horse, the coordinations with your hands to be able to hold the reins and ask the horse to walk and stop and turn and all that. People just don't realize how many steps need to be broken down, especially for someone with an intellectual disability or high anxiety, or just afraid to make a mistake, and they're shaking, and they're cerebral palsy with the hands that don't have the typical grip that a person would have, and how to adapt our riding to whatever skills they need. And that ends up bringing up a lot of pride for them and a lot of self-worth. So it's really, it's not just physical. You have that mental and emotional burst of life, quality of life. Some people sit in their wheelchairs and just look out the window, watch all the other little kids get to play. But this is somebody that with a wheelchair, they can do. One of the needs we saw is, I'm a small person. How am I going to get that adult or larger teen up on a horse? I can't pick them up. And so we ended up getting a grant through the Community Foundation to have a wheelchair to horse lift, to be able to put a person up on the horse. So we have some adaptive saddles that we've gotten grants for, and a lot of adaptive equipment to help pay for all of this. So we can have different types of people.
So over the years, you've really tailored this for the disabled person, be it blind, be it hurt from a stroke or maybe an accident, and really helping their recovery.
Yes.
Also, those that have permanent disabilities, be it blind or autistic or things like that, they're able to really connect in this type of treatment.
Yes. If it's okay with you, I'd like to tell you about a lady I met that I didn't meet her today, but came in today.
I would love to hear it.
Okay, so this is an example of a story. If I don't cry, I don't know why. It just suddenly I just got goosebumps and just feeling of whoosh, coming through. But she is such a dear, sweet lady. She's about 84 years old. She has Alzheimer's.
Mm-hmm.
She's so cute. She was standing in front. She was standing waiting for me to come out of the office to start her lesson. And she's looking at me going, "Do you remember me?" And she was kind of shaking and breathing funny, fast. I'm like, "Yes, honey, I remember you. Do you remember me?" She goes, "Yes," just really timid. And she was breathing and she was having trouble. She was trying to hold back tears. And she wasn't quite sure, remembering why she was there, but yet she did. And I brought her over to her horse. And while I was with her horse, I'm just having her just lay hands on the horse and just breathe and just calming her. And just, we're only here just to be here, because she's thinking she can't remember what she's supposed to be doing. And she knows when the Alzheimer's is affecting her, she can't remember things, and it disturbs her immensely. And so this is, I think, her 4th or 5th lesson with us. And she put her hands on the horse and just started petting the horse. And she's, "I remember her." And then she started remembering. She's brushing some of the hairs coming off. "Oh, is this okay?" And so I've explained it to her many times before, but yes, this is Candy, telling her who her horse is. And yes, the hair comes off because it's so hot. And she was really fighting back tears, but after about a few minutes and me just talking to her and helping her relax and just pet the horse as she saw fit, no rush, we don't have to hurry up and put her on the horse. She started relaxing, and she was a visible relax. And then we go to the other side and let her pet. I'm showing her how to brush the horse's mane. And then she was finally ready to go ahead and ride. So we tacked up the horse real quick. We already had all the equipment ready for her. Put her on the horse. And as she's walking on the horse, she's just feeling the horse. And I feel her getting all shaky and scared. Not scared, but nervous. She didn't know why. She didn't know it was nervousness. She didn't know what it was that was bothering her. But she was just, tears were coming out. But a lot of that, I know what that is. A lot of that is release. And that's the emotional release from the tension that's going on. And we're just letting her walk with the horse and put her hands on the horse so she feels the horse's movement. And while she's doing that for a few minutes, she said she was done. And we got her off, and she was just, that was just so nice. And her husband said, when we left to come here, and they live out in Beaumont or Banning or something, they live a ways away. Her husband says she was just shaking and hyperventilating. And now she's just so at peace after being here with the horses. And that's just an example where you don't even have to ride. It's just being there and not having them have expectations. And when they are full of anxiety or very tense or very nervous, don't push them. Just stop and let things happen as it happens, and the peacefulness of just being there and just letting it happen.
Now, I have a question. You did mention that some people are trying to recover from strokes, or in this case, this lady is over 80, and some have cerebral palsy, so they're shaking. Do you have to strap them into the saddle?
Oh, absolutely not. We do not strap anybody in. We train our volunteers to do emergency dismounts. Everybody has to be able to come off the horse for an unscheduled dismount. If they're strapped, we don't want them to be dragged. Even we have safety stirrups that will break away so we can pull them off if we need to, should something happen. So yeah, you never want to strap somebody onto the horse.
So they're really balancing on their own.
Yes. And that's where somebody with cerebral palsy or any other kind of balance issues, or maybe they had brain surgery, we have a cancer recovery, brain tumor, a person who's really working and focusing on just sit there and just enjoy, just feel the horse's movement and so we do breathing exercises, mindfulness exercises to help them relax and move with the horse. We have post-traumatic stress. We have military. We have a special program for military. And again, like I want to bring up autism. There was one young man where the son started having what a neurotypical person would consider behavioral issues. He was nervous. He hadn't been there before. He didn't know what 5 minutes on the horse was. He didn't have the concept of time. And I'm watching him as we're riding the horse, and he's finally got on the horse. He's all scared. He's nervous. But when he wanted to get off, I'm watching him looking around, and I can tell he was looking for a place to escape. Mm-hmm. I didn't really mention that to anyone, but I was ready for it. I didn't want him to just bolt, so I had to make sure that we have a person on each side called sidewalkers that help stabilize and keep the person safe up there. And we have a horse leader, so the person doesn't have to control the horse leader's doing it. So the person just has to exist. And we tell them, we play games to keep their interest. The games might turn into mathematical counting steps or a mathematical type thing. A lot of it's colors, reading, spelling, learning letters, all these type of things we do. Coordination, eye-hand coordination, crossing the midline during brain exercises. This young man in particular, as we walked him around, I can tell he wanted off, and he didn't know what 5 minutes meant. So I let him off as soon as I could tell he was ready before he bolted off. And when he got off, first thing he did was jet over and hid in the corner of in one of our sheds and started stimming. So they call it stimming when you do that rocking and whatnot, for those that don't know. And his father's like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And it's like, he's perfectly normal. He's fine. What he's doing is perfectly normal. And the father started breaking down and says, nobody has ever told me that my son is normal. And it's like, he has autism. What he's doing is normal. How could you not? And so I started giving him some autism resources because he didn't know, and some autism, like the Autism Society and various other resources that can help him know that there's others out there to help him to know that's normal.
Yeah, I think there's one called Autism Speaks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, they've actually granted us in the past as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a great story. Now, I do want you to share with the audience where you're located exactly, and if they want to get a hold of you, what your numbers are, and how far in advance do you have to make an appointment to come and ride?
Oh, good question.
And what is the process of getting on a horse? There's got to be a little bit of training before they even get on, right?
Sometimes.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, because we work with foster kids, and so we do a lot of groundwork. We have a program called HEART program, Helping the Equine and Rider Team, HEART. That is to help them learn some groundwork before they get on the horse. But then you have some folks that just can't wait to get on. And then you have others, oftentimes someone with autism, that it takes some encouraging to get them on. So what you do is you go to our website, which is queenofheartsranch.org. And there is a link for services. And you go on the link, and if you want to ride, there's different types of services. Specifically, we have a veterans, because a lot of our veterans start off as clients and become volunteers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So they don't have to keep filling out different packets. We try to put the packet in one. We have the therapeutic riding is what most of our people do. And so you can fill out the packet online. They do need a doctor's permission, and you use the form that's in our packet. And that doctor's form, you take it to the doctor. It's sort of like having a school physical, saying, yes, they don't have any contraindications to riding. The type of person that wouldn't be able to ride is somebody that I can't help stabilize on the horse. I had, unfortunately, a very large man who wanted to ride, but he couldn't hold himself up, and we could not safely hold him up. Or rod in their spine is a contraindication, because if the horse trips, you don't want that rod to go into the brain. If you have Down syndrome, there's a lot of people with Down syndrome have a symptom. It's called atlantoaxial joint, it's unstable, so it's atlantoaxial instability. And if that gets knocked, it could severely damage the person with autism. So they have to have an x-ray to show that they do not have that. So basically the doctor signs off. Yes, they don't have the problem with them taking supervised equestrian activities. You give me a call. You say you've got that paperwork signed. And then we start finding a day and time that is appropriate for both of us.
I also want to ask you, does insurance cover this or not?
No. The difference between what we do, so there's something called hippotherapy. We do not do hippotherapy. We do therapeutic or adaptive riding. Hippotherapy is with a licensed physical therapist, occupational therapist, or speech and language therapist. Those, they have a medical goal. We teach riding skills. We often do pre-riding skills, such as somebody who needs to learn balance, coordination, that type of thing. And we work with people very similar to their therapists, and oftentimes in conjunction with their therapists as they're riding the horse. Our goal is to be able to ride a horse independently. Their goal is a medical goal. And so because we are not licensed therapists, insurance doesn't cover it. So it's private pay. So what we do is we try to keep our lessons as low as possible. Every session is considered a group session, even if you're by yourself, just to keep the sessions at a small rate. And we charge about 20% of what the real cost is to conduct the lessons. So we survive off of grants and individual donations. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah.
So really it is a love work that you're doing.
Yeah.
It's the love for the patient. It's the love for the horse that is, and really you do see such excellent, changes in your patient, and it does help so much. I said patient, but are they clients?
Clients or participants, because I'm not a doctor, I'm not in the medical field, so I can't call them patients. So they are clients or they're participants, they're participating in the program. They're not all riders. We do work mental health, which is on the ground. The method we use is called EGALA. And we have a mental health therapist, a licensed mental health therapist, and me as the equine specialist and the horses. And we work on the ground through people with the mental health or emotional situations that they're dealing with. And then I do something that's called equine assisted learning, where you're learning about yourself. And a lot of our veterans don't want to see a therapist. So they'll come to me. I am a VA certified peer support specialist. So I work with them through whatever issues. Maybe that day they just need to relax, and even just grooming the horses and slow down is one thing that they need to get their days going. I have one sergeant major that came in, and he's battle sergeant major, retired. And he comes in and he's brushing that horse's hair. Hurry up, task oriented, got to get it done. Mission, got to get things done, got to hurry up and get out of here. And it's like, whoa, slow down. And I helped him slow down, get his self down, his breathing down, be in the moment. Right now you're doing this, and don't worry about what you're going to do in an hour. Right now, this is what we're doing, and helped him slow down so he could be more productive through the day. So,
wow, that's awesome. How many horses do you have, and how many clients can you see at one given hour?
We have access to 7 horses. How many clients we see depends on 1, what their special need is. 2, how many volunteers do we have? Because we only can do what we're doing with volunteers. I just hired a staff person who's going to start this afternoon. So she has to be trained still. I still don't make a regular paycheck. And I've been doing this for 22 years. So yeah, lesson of love, but God's taking care of us, keep us going. So it depends. If I have no volunteers, no lessons. If I have lessons scheduled for 1 person who might need 4 assistants, they might need a horse leader, like I do have a client who his mother helps stabilize him up, and we have to hold him in a particular way so that the volunteer has to be a tall volunteer to be able to hold him properly. And I'm going around in circles making sure that his spine is as straight as we can be. We have the horse leader. So that's 4 of us with that one client. So if I have 3 people, we could do it, but it's not the best, but we can still work with him. Cannot do it with only 2 people.
Wow.
So that one person can't do it yet. Like this afternoon, I have 2 young ladies who have been with us for a while, and I can do both of them. I could probably do 3. If they're all at that same ability level. So I don't like to put more than 3 in because we have a small arena. So I can do 1 person with 4 people. Otherwise, again, if I had 2 volunteers, I wouldn't be able to do that one young man.
Wow. Now, if we call up to make an appointment, what time frame can we? Do we have to call months in advance, days in advance?
Oh, that's a good question. That depends too. We're in the transitional phase every semester. A lot of our volunteers are interns or college students. They leave, go back to college, or they're coming in because they're being an intern for college. So it depends. They sign up for 8-week blocks. If you, for example, today, if you wanted a lesson today, I have 8 a.m. open. However, it doesn't mean I'll have 8 a.m. tomorrow open. I mean, tomorrow doesn't mean I'll have Thursday. What day is today? Wednesday open. It changes. It changes with the season. Maybe I have somebody that now has a new behavioral specialist that they had a 4 o'clock class and they can't come anymore at 4 o'clock because it's the only time their behavioral specialist will be there. So we try to find them a new spot. So right now we have some openings, but if the only time you can come is at 9 a.m. on Wednesday, sorry, somebody's in that spot. You can't have that spot until it's open. And the likelihood of it opening, it depends. We've had people for years. We start off with 8-week sessions. Some people move, and like with the summer and the heat that we've had, people have not been able to do lessons. It was not good for the horses, the volunteers. It wasn't good for anybody. Clients, nobody could do it. And in the summer, we can't do lessons when it's 95 degrees because we don't have a covered arena. If we ever get a grant enough for a covered arena, then we can start doing later or lessons in the afternoon. But that direct heat, it's not good for anybody. Health.
Now, also, I wanted to ask, when you have this patient, could you give us an idea of maybe, without using somebody's name, about a significant change for the better that as they were writing, it may have taken months, it may have taken weeks, but can you give us an example of somebody that came in for writing lessons and maybe they had autism or whatever it was, and there was, I want to call it a breakthrough, but maybe that's not the word.
I can give so many examples.
Give me a couple.
Sure, I'll do my best. So let's see, there's one young man with cerebral palsy, using wheelchairs in school. He was in elementary school at the time. He came to us when he was about 4 or 5 years old.
Wow.
No, that's past elementary school, maybe 5 or 6 years old. And when he came to us, he couldn't sit up, didn't sit up well. Sitting in the saddle helped him. But we used to do what we call street walking before all the development around us, where we would walk down the street and the horse would be very alert looking around and had very soft trotting type step to him. And after a few times doing that, as we'd walk up and down the street, he started sitting up better, and he used to be able to walk with a walker, and he started being able to walk with his walker better around school. He's since grown. Every time they grow, they have to get new operations on their legs with the body growth. And he's back in the chair again. but he was walking for the first time. We actually have a video. Actually, if you go to our website, shameless plug, queenofheartsranch.org, you will see him on our website, and you'll see when he was little and he was walking for the first time. His parents took videos of that. So that was pretty cool. There was another young man who was a football player.
Before you go on to this one,
Yes.
it sounds like they're clients for years.
A lot of them are. Like that young man, he left and came back. He left again because of COVID. They're asking to come back. So yes, they often come and go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Isn't that neat?
Yeah. Oh, it's awesome. When they come back. Oh, I want to tell you this story. There's another young man who has autism, and he was a little guy at the time, and he couldn't sit up straight. And I've videos, post pictures of him where he was like a little weeble wobble, but he would fall down. He couldn't even sit without falling. And so he took riding lessons with us. And he was a little guy at the time. And it ended up that he ended up going to the same junior high and his brother, junior high and high school that my kids did. And they kind of saw each other in the passing, but kind of missed grades a bit. But I run into him every now and again. But he came to us for a couple of years. For him, it was fun. A lot of times the parents say, don't call it therapy, because then they won't come.
Yeah.
But we still do the stuff. Well, his brother is now an Eagle Scout. I hope he's an Eagle Scout now, because they just did an Eagle Scout project at our place. He wanted to come back because the influence we made for his little brother.
Oh, wow.
Mind you, I'm knowing this cute little face. Oh my God, he's adorable too. Cute little face, cute little guy. And I don't remember if he stopped coming to us. He was still in elementary school at the time. I believe he's in high school now. He came in through the gate when they were doing the Eagle Scout project, and I didn't even recognize him until he had that smile. Social. If you didn't know him, you wouldn't have known he had autism, because his social, his mannerisms, everything, he was very independently helping everybody with everything. So, I just found that, years later, they still come back.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, you were going to talk about a different one, so why don't I let you finish that one before you interjected that. And then I really do want you to give the information on how to get a hold of you again.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, this young man, he was a football player, and he ended up having some problems with his head, and he went to the doctors and didn't know what was going on. And while he was at the doctors, I believe his heart stopped. And they didn't work with him fast enough. If I'm remembering the story, this is a few years back, if I'm remembering the stories correctly, he was tall. He was about 6 foot or something like that. And his mom, the doctor said, well, there's nothing more that we can do with him. And he was in a wheelchair, drooling, just couldn't really grasp with his hands too much. His mom says, I've heard of equine therapy. The doctor said there's nothing else they can do. There's something you can do with him. We were able to get him on the horse. But it was very difficult stabilizing him, because I'm 5'1", his mom was about 5 foot, and we were sidewalking. We had a horse leader trying to help them. And part of his disability is that he always turned his head and looked like this. So there's some things that you can do to, like, if you move his arm another way, he can set his head up. So we had to work with that brain damage that he was having. And eventually, when he was starting to work with us, he was eventually starting to sit up better, not perfect. We still struggled because trying to help stabilize him. Because of him, we made a focus to get an adaptive saddle. Because of him, we made a focus to get the lift. And so we have that now. But we ended up getting it before he stopped coming to us. But at the end, he was actually able to grip his reins and be able to turn the horse.
Wow.
Which was something that he could barely walk. And there was not much connection going on, but he started getting connection and being able to do it. And then he stopped coming to us because, I guess, whatever the family needed to do. So he came to us for about a year, maybe 2. And then he went off to a specialist. And so I haven't heard from them. So I don't know what happened to him, but that was a major, somebody who could barely sit up to being able to start steering the horse was a major.
Wow, that's awesome. So give us your numbers again,
Okay.
for the listeners, because I really would love for them to be able to connect with you.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Queen of Hearts Therapeutic Riding Center. We're in Jurupa Valley, California, off the 15 freeway between the 60 and the, well, for those that are around here, between the 60 and the 91 freeways. We are, the phone number, 951-734-6300, 951-734-6300. It's like I'm leaving a message on an answering machine. And the website is queenofheartsranch.org. Queen of Hearts, like the playing card, because Queen of Hearts is your best bet for Eagle fans. queenofheartsranch.org.
I also want to tell you that if you call and nobody picks up, please leave a message on their system. They will call you back. And as I've tried to get a hold of you, and you do call back, so please leave a message. That's what it's there for.
Yes, because if you don't leave a message, I'm not going to call you back, because especially, and if it says spam on your caller ID, I won't call you back and I won't answer. But if I'm not answering, it's because we're out with clients or we're with the horses. So don't, it even might be a day or two because of, again, we're very short-handed. We can use all the help we can get. And I'm the primary person in the office, so I can't be out there teaching lessons and answering the phone. Not safe. I don't care if it's my cell phone. It's not safe, so I will get back to you. And if you tell me when's the best time, like after hours, after 5 o'clock, I can probably get back to you.
Okay, I do want to also talk about, you mentioned volunteers.
Yes, ma'am.
And you also mentioned you live on grants and donations.
Yes, ma'am.
So if we wanted to A, volunteer, or B, donate to your ministry, and it is a ministry, I know that it feels like therapy, but it's a ministry. Tell us how to do that.
Yes, so if you want to volunteer, go to our website. There is an online application. There's a tab for online. You first do the online application, and then you do an online training. The online training, there's 5 modules to go through, because that way you'll know for sure, do you want to spend time learning how to work with us? Because we can't just take you off the street. You have to have a full training. Working with horses, if something happens, you always train for the if something happens, and you've got to be able to respond to that. So you've got to be physically fit and mentally aware to be able to respond quickly if something happens. And the online training will teach you about that. Then after that, you will do a hands-on training. That takes about 4 hours because we need, and it's just showing you what you learned on the screen. Now you're going to actually touch the horse and learn how to do it. And then you get a mentor, and the mentor will help you, guide you through the daily process of what needs to happen. So there's a lot of training. Again, we can't just take somebody off the street that doesn't know what they're doing. We have to train you. It helps 100% if you already know about horses and you're not afraid of horses. Some people want to come to us because they want to be around horses. You have to, when you come, you have to come with the mindset to serve. We're doing this for God. We're not doing it for man. You have to have the service mindset. You can't come there for your own therapy unless you want to be a client. Some people, oh, it's something that'll help me get out of my depression. Well, it helped me. However, I'm not your therapist. You need to come and really be wanting to serve. And we are really wanting you to be there if that is the situation. To donate, you can also go to our website, or you can call me. And we do take checks. We do take Venmo. But if you know of a grant or want some sort of possibility in that realm, then just give me a call and I will definitely help you through it.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm really taken by this whole ministry. I was telling Robin earlier that I grew up around horses, and so that was really great as a child. And it is something that really allows you to kind of relax. And then the whole idea that you're on this really big animal, and have this control over this animal, is something that, you have to experience.
It's empowering.
Yes, it's
empowering for someone that doesn't have confidence in themselves. It's very empowering. Again, quality of life. That's what we build, quality of life. Everybody has value. We help you find it.
Wow. Anyway, give her a call. Go to the website, please do. But if you're a listener out there that has never accepted the Lord and would like to do that today, please invite him in. Just exactly like Robin did. You know, she was 8 years old and she said she wanted Jesus to be her savior, and still is her savior.
Absolutely.
So invite him in. Give us a call if you accept him in the quiet of your home, and talk to him. He will come in. Thank you so much for joining us today. Join us again here on The Road with Jesus. Bye for now. God bless you all. We love you.
Thank you for being here today for On the Road with Jesus with your host, Rhody Fisher. Every week, you'll hear experiences and testimonies from her and her friends as they share their journey with Jesus. You'll see that you're not alone in your search for God, your victories with Him, or your failures. If you have a question about today's show, email Rhody Fisher at rawfisher@ontheroadwithjesus.com, spelled R-A-H, Fisher at ontherowdwithjesus.com, or leave a voicemail at 951-817-0094. That's 951-817-0094. On the Road with Jesus is sponsored by Global Expressions Language Project. Learn more at asquaredlamps.org. That's the letter A, squaredlamps.org. Be sure to join us each week at this same time for more On the Road with Jesus, hosted by Rhody Fisher.